Returnal is by far Housemarque's largest and most ambitious project. The Finnish developers made a name for itself developing arcade titles like Resogun, Next Machina, and Super Stardust HD. Housemarque's latest entry in their portfolio is a successful one, and if you're a fan of roguelikes, platformers, Metroidvanias, bullet hells, and horror games, this will keep you entertained for many hours to come. Returnal takes place on Atropos, a mysterious, uncharted planet that follows Celine, an Astra deep space scout. Crash landing on Atropos, she is forced to scavenge her way through the uncovered mysteries that lurk its surroundings, discovering a harrowing truth after finding her own corpse. Here's where the fun begins. Celine finds herself in a never-ending time loop. Every time she dies, she finds herself back at the crash site where she first set off, and finds that the planet's terrain changes every time. The storytelling is a slow burner. You start the game confused and disorientated, but with each find of an audio journal left behind by past versions of Celine, cryptoglyphs and xeno artifacts, you'll get a little background on Celine and the planet's alien race, and every find is just a piece in a bigger puzzle. As you continue to explore, you find yourself coming across a typical American home, where you can enter. Entering this unnaturally placed house drags you into a first-person view, where you can explore the eerie corridors which it presents. With each visit to the house, you become more uneasy as you find items in the house are not originally where they were placed last time, as if some supernatural presence is prowling, ready to pounce.
Such strange markings. Where did this...
With story also comes gameplay, and on that front, Returnal does not disappoint. It's a through-and-through roguelike third-person shooter, and as you progress through each biome, the game provides you with a ton of items that can either be beneficial, detrimental, or both. There are pickups that can range from increasing your weapon proficiency to restoring your suit's integrity. In addition to those pickups, you have a chance to cause your suit to malfunction. Malfunctions are negative effects, and can include things like suffer damage when collecting items, or even negative 50% weapon damage whilst mid-air. When you receive malfunctions, you do have a way to remove them. For each malfunction, you're given a specific task, and only by fulfilling that task, the malfunction for that specific task is removed. Then come along parasites. Parasites carry one beneficial trait and one detrimental trait that typically don't equal in value. You can equip multiple parasites as well as multiple suit malfunctions, and this mechanic creates a great combination of risk and reward, which roguelikes normally offer. You just have to make the best out of a bad situation. Some runs you may come across the best items and effects, but some runs you find yourself struggling to get past the first few waves of enemies. Each run is never the same. You find yourself surprised not knowing what you may encounter around every corner and crevice as you continue to explore through Atropos. This is one of the main reasons roguelikes, and Returnal especially, are heavily regarded as they are perfect for long-term replayability. There are also suit artifacts you can find too. They can be found or bought with the game's currency or blights from each biome store, which is known as Fabricator. Artifacts can provide Celine with useful buffs, some of which can be game-changing and turn your run from mediocre to amazing, and also some which can turn your run from mediocre to mediocre. Of course, all these buffs won't be able to tackle the onslaught of enemies which are ready to take you down at first sight. Weaponry is a big part of the game, and with a huge arsenal available, you do start the game with only a pistol. While it can handle the early game enemies quite well, you'll want a more knockout weapon to take your enemies down. As you take more and more enemies down, your weapon proficiency level increases, and in conjunction with the weapon proficiency pickups, you'll start to gradually level this up. And that means any future guns you find will be slightly more powerful than the guns you were finding before. Initially you aren't presented with the entire arsenal from the get-go, but they are introduced steadily as you progress through the story. Each weapon you come across has a chance to have 1 to 3 randomized traits, which are locked at first, but can unlock as your weapon proficiency gets higher. Returnal creates an unforgiving but rewarding experience. The adrenaline mechanic is a welcome addition, and it rewards players who can fully perfect the movement and their awareness in the game. You'll gain some pretty useful buffs as you kill enemies without getting hit, but if you do get hit by an enemy's attack, your adrenaline is reset, and you'll lose those useful buffs you temporarily gained. Every death you find yourself back at the crash site with all the items, buffs, and debuffs you gained on the previous run gone. With all that's left is the stun pistol and any permanent upgrades you may have stumbled across. Starting as new again, you find that sections within each biome are interchanging, as each biome you enter is procedurally generated. Knowledge is power here, and as you learn to traverse through each biome and battle through the same enemies again and again, you do learn to recognize rooms and what could potentially be in that room over time, and also how to take them down more effectively. The combat is intense. Paired with a spectacular visual showcase and outstanding sound design, you do feel like you're on the edge of your seat at all times, as you keep focus on a mixture of thinning enemy numbers as well as staying on the move. Before you know it, you're presented with a nail-like firework display right in front of your eyes. This is by far the studio's most graphically intensive game, and it's impressive how they've implemented their signature arcade style to a third-person shooter. Returnal really does hit the nail on the head when it comes to using the features that the PlayStation 5 offers. The haptic feedback is great, as you feel the rain falling on your controller, and little things like specific sounds coming from your controller whenever you fail a reload is a great addition. It also makes clever use of adaptive triggers. If you hold the left trigger halfway, you activate the weapon sights, and then fully pressing down the trigger activates the weapon's alt fire special. This took some time for me to get used to at first, but I eventually fully embraced the unique way that Returnal utilizes the adaptive triggers and found it to give the game an additional layer to its gameplay.
The fog has dispersed, and the energy signature is gone.
Returnal does, however, have some cons. The biggest issue I've come across with the game is that there's no proper save feature. If you manage to stay alive for a long time, your runs can last for over 2 hours, and during my playtime, I encountered some crashes. Specifically when I was in a run which had lasted over 2 hours, which is more of an annoyance than anything. Another workaround is by putting your PS5 on rest mode, which is less than ideal because if for some reason the power goes off, or a firmware update happens, the progress you had made on that run is basically lost. As well, although there's a huge array of weapons to choose from, some weapons are just outright better than others, and as for any game, there's a fine line when balancing out weapons and can understand the frustration that Housemarque would have had when trying to provide an equal playing field. With tight and responsive gameplay, an unsettling story, a fantastic sound experience, and jaw-dropping visual display, this is surely a home run. Although the roguelike features in the game aren't for everyone, players who are looking for a challenge with a brutal learning curve and addictive gunplay, Returnal should definitely be on top of your list. Housemarque has created a near-seamless roguelike experience, with Returnal being undoubtedly one of their best games to date, and is a welcome addition to the PlayStation family. Dan Wong Reviews gives Housemarque's Returnal an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I'll make it this time. I know it.